This is another part of this practice world in the urban planning and design. When I first arrived in the government office almost 2 years ago, it was February 2012. I remember I was invited to the opening of a new public space they were just renewing. And I bumped into a good friend of mine that I met since before when I was practicing as an architect for a studio. And she works at the Office for International Relations of Mexico City. She's like in the area of international relations, mainly with Asia. That was her thing by those times. Now she's like director of international relations in Mexico City's office. Anyway, we met, and then my boss also was friend of her. She's friend of her. And then she said, well, we have this event. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the International Cultural Fair. And it's an event that takes place in Mexico City in the main big avenue, like our Champs-Élysées. It's a very big avenue, lots of shops and big buildings. And every year in May, they organize this fair where we have pavilions by each country that wants to participate. We have around 100 countries participating every year. And it's just small pavilions, and it's very kind of touristic oriented. It's just pavilions where each country show like traditional food, or they are dressed in special, like in the traditional way. They show pictures and so on. And they have, on weekends, they make concerts outside and etc. It's a very lively fair. It's a very nice event to visit, and it has a huge success because it's this very central area with a lot of offices and people every day, so it has a lot of visitors every year. So that year she said, why don't you take part of the Mexico City's pavilion? Why don't you design something interesting for it? And this is where all this journey in public participation in the city started, actually, with this international fair. So then we started to say, okay, what is it going to be like to be in this kind of context, and what are we going to talk about when we talk about the city? So then we made a whole presentation for them, and we started to be like beyond what they expected us to do. Like we really even like conceptualized the whole thing, and they were really, at the end, they were really happy with the results. We were really happy with the results, and I will tell you more about this story because it's really interesting how it all happened. So this was the presentation for the Cultural Fair of Mexico City for the 2012 version. The theme of the fair was diversity in harmony, and we said diversity in the city, right? We wanted to like address also the issues of the city. So then we named the project Constructorio, which is like constructorium. We wanted to think of something that it's like building process thing, a place where we build up things and we contribute with our ideas for the building process of the city. So we call it Constructorio Ciudad de México, a project of collective construction. And we thought of a project, of a concept where people, that works more like a workshop, that you can have tools to work with and then you can propose things. So then we said it is a workshop where people learn, reflect, propose, and construct the city. That was like the first main idea on how we visualized this Constructorio pavilion. Then we had this former version of our vision of the city that was, before it ended up in these 4 concepts that I talked about: compact, extrovertive, dynamic, equitable. But we had it before like compact, extrovertive, and shared city. That was like our 3 main concept back in those days. So then we started to like build up all these ideas. This is like really the beginning of all these things that happened afterwards. And we wanted to talk about the systems, all these components of the city, and show the people what are the components of the city, what are these layers of information that build up the reality of the city. So we talked about public life, accessibility, housing, land recycle, environment, and collective construction, which later on derived on all these maps that you can see here in the project of the program of the master plan for Mexico City. So then we had two objectives for this pavilion. In the first place, we want to learn from people. We want to know their background. We want to know their age. We want to know their gender. We want to know their address, only the neighborhood. We didn't want to know the names or anything else. We just wanted to know the age, gender, so the basic stats of people so that we have clear knowledge on the sphere of people that we are addressing to. And of course, maybe an email so that we can give more information or that we can have more information through the network. And then the citizen has to contribute with ideas. They had to propose ideas and they have to be mapped and so that they could be registered. It became very important, and this is going to be like this final concept for me and what we're going to work with and what we've been working with in the past presentations, the importance of the maps, because the maps are the tools that we have for the territorialization of the policies, of the ideas, of the concepts, of the problematics, of the analysis. Everything has to land in a map somehow. And for us, since the beginning, when we started working with the projects, with all these projects, this was the first project ever, we said like, yeah, we need maps. We need to work with maps. And we didn't have really clear what we wanted to do, if it was going to be like a GIS interactive or if it's going to be more analog type. We were very unclear about this, but started to evolve and develop into something else. So basically that was the point. The ideas had to be mapped, had to have a place where it happened. And so then the ideas could be studied furthermore. The evaluation of the workshop was understanding how people understood these themes, how they understood what the vision meant, what these components meant, if they really understood them or not, how much interest they would show in the city issues, in the urban issues, and not only about knowing about the city issues, but participating in the issues. One thing is that, okay, I understand what public life means, but then am I willing to participate into this, contributing to these ideas, or it's okay that I just know? So that was the exercise, that was the objectives of the exercise. So we imagined we could work with tablets, with iPads or any other kind of tablet, that you can have access to like very simple GIS like Google Maps, so that you can pin things there and you can make proposals for spaces, or you can make observations on these pins, and of course by theme with the public life, accessibility, again housing, etc., etc. So we even gave colors to each of these themes that again ended up in all these colors that by the end of the year became the master plan. So we were always thinking about the connection between the map, the participation, the concept, even the graphics, that had to be all connected. So then basically it started to become kind of an idea of this simple GIS system in which people can pin observations on the city, but because of matter of budget and time-wise things that we had to rush, it ended up being quite analog. So it's really interesting because it ended up being, you will see how. So then how did the space had to work like? It had to be like a pavilion. It had to be like a space that you go inside. Then we got engaged with a very interesting project that is a itinerary public library. This is a project by an NGO called Alumnos 47. I can give you the information later. But it's a very interesting project because it's a truck that opens itself and it becomes a public library, and it's oriented on contemporary art and architecture. So then they have a lot of contemporary urban art things. It's really nice. And so then we started to like call kind of like our friends and people that we knew from before and like make it bigger and bigger. They even not only about the dynamics of the mapping things, but also involving this contemporary art itinerary library. Then we had this project, it's called the Urban Agora by artist Pedro Reyes, and he built up this you know, this truck by like Volkswagen truck with these grates. So you can like fold them and unfold them, and you can do like these public participation discussions outdoors. So we got all these little objects and put them on a side like to make the whole concept together. And then we even imagined that maybe those were ideas, of course, that the electricity of the pavilion could be like generated by bikes. It never happened. But we all had these ideas on how to make it all like super active and very dynamic at the same time and appealing for everyone. So then we designed how people would have visit the place. This is the sidewalk in the street. This is 6 meters. It's a very wide sidewalk. This is the second sidewalk because it has like a lateral road here and the main road here. It's a very beautiful street. I don't know if I have pictures. I'll show you later. So then we started to define like, okay, we're gonna have the truck here, we're gonna have the agora, and then we're gonna have all this pathway where each table with the theme will be around, and then people will start learning from each theme, like the public life, the mobility, housing, etc., making their own proposals and putting them in a central map. That's going to be like the heart of the proposal of the pavilion. And then we also set a program of dialogue nights, we call them, also themed. So one night was about public life, one night was about mobility, etc. And we invited NGOs, government people, and independent practicants from these themes. And they turned out to be very successful because it was like on a Tuesday night. We just got together there, and then people just started to arrive because it was right on the street. And we have quite big audience and people starting to be really interested. It was really, really, really great experience. We even designed, because the budget was really short, we designed this pavilion, which is made out of these wood boxes to carry on vegetables. So we designed this construction, painted in white. And then we also decided that people had to wear helmets because that was like the part of the whole experience to be like very participative. So then whenever you had the helmet on, then you started to be like this constructorio user. And it became really analog. And we used Post-its. That was our tool. And then we had these pieces of wood with each color. And the color defined again the theme. And then the people in the tables, we had some volunteers, young volunteers there's a public institute called the Youngster Institute, and basically it's these young guys who are, they have scholarships by the government to study their high school, and so they have to do like some social service. And it was really interesting because we taught them all these ideas, and then they have to teach the people what they had learned and encourage them to participate. So it was like a chain of people working together to contribute to the ideas. And we have the map of the city. This is the map of the city. And then people putting the post-its with the theme, and then we classified all the proposals, and then we registered them all in computer, and then we have all the proposals digitalized already. And it was during 3 weeks, and we had more than 40,000 people visiting the pavilion. It was really, really successful. And all kinds of people, of course, because it's a public space. So then we had grandmas, we had parents, kids, everyone came in. We have the tablets, but we couldn't afford to have this application with the maps, so we just had like a survey in which we asked the stats of what I mentioned before, age, etc., so that we could have an idea of who was participating in the project. This is the Agora place. So at the beginning, we made a video in which we kind of make the introduction for the place, and then people would sit there and then start to do like the whole pathway through the pavilion. This is the public library. So they organized also workshops in the weekend, doing like some activities there with children and with people. So it became really like building up, constructing from different approaches about the city in these different spaces. And these are the nights. You can see how busy it is. I mean, it was like a Tuesday night, completely packed with cars, beeping everywhere, and we just didn't care. We just like talking about the city and presenting different projects. We invited, as I said, independent projects talking about like, I don't know, architects who do research on public space, or other NGOs about mobility, etc., etc., many, many different projects. It was a really nice combination because it was not only about governmental policies and this and that, but rather these bottom-up initiatives from many places and from many people. Like we had this, they call bicitecas, means like bike-castex, if you translate it to English. And it's a movement of biking people, like this critical mass. And they have been biking for like over 10 years, I guess, now. And they can gather around 1,000 people in one night doing critical mass in the city. And actually one night we were there having these conversations, and the bicitecas arrived. And it was crazy. I mean, it's just like huge amount of bikers there invading the streets, and it's just amazing how they do it. And they do it every Tuesday, more or less. So it's becoming bigger and bigger, the biking movement. So these are more images on how it worked with the dialogues. One day it rained, so we had to go inside instead of outside. And so more and more activities. So then after that, we proved that we were kind of successful. We got more than 25,000 post-its that we had to like register, digitalize, and process and everything. And in parallel, when we finished that, we started to do this project of the master plan that took us around 6 months of building up. It had already a background of analysis and discussions and et cetera, but we arrived like this on time to sum it up and put it in a document, and then come out with this document that you can see. Of course, there's an official document, which is like this huge Bible with all the information. And officially, by law, you have to go on public survey when you have this planning document. That's by law. And you have to cover all the districts, the 16 districts. You have to cover them all. You have to be outside on the streets for like certain amount of time, etc., etc. It's like a very specific time thing you have to do, but it's not specific how you have to do the public survey. So then we say, why don't we do the Constructorio, our public survey for our master plan? Why don't we use the same tool, even the same name, to make it together? So it became kind of the version 2 of the Constructorio, the public survey of this. So the background was this international fair with more than 25,000 ideas. We made a campaign in the billboards, in metro stations, in metro bus stations with the Post-its. We print the Post-its like in very large scale, so people could see like, okay, this is your idea. We deposited in the master plan, and now we're taking it back. So then we're again out on the streets asking the people about it. So it was kind of this connection from this first project into the second one. So it included the document, of course. We have the book, as I said, the main document. But we wanted to make this special, more appealing, easier to read thing that it's just more general and has just like these very accurate points about it, so that people could easily understand what this is about. So that was like the design of what you can see here. And we again used these blocks, these wood boxes for making the pavilions. And we use these tricycles that are also very common in the city. They are used by street vendors to sell any kinds of products. So we kind of reinterpret these tricycles in order to make our like mobile pavilions that could go all the way in the city, bringing the ideas of the urban ideas to the people so that they could approach and learn more about it. So we had several types of pavilions. We were in this monument, and then we set up this little pavilion with plants and everything. We got all these, some decorations, the umbrella with the bike, and this is where people could read all this information and saw the videos and everything. And this was the public survey, the official one, that everything had to be really well registered with like specific lists, like the legal issues. But we changed it to be more like fun, to be more friendly in a way. So we had, here you can read 4 tricycles, more than 400 boxes, and I don't know how much it says, 4 volunteers, I guess. And we had more than 2,000 visitors in this during 3 weeks of the lasting of the pavilion in this plaza. Then we have itinerant pavilions, because you have, according to law, you have to visit the 16 municipalities, the 16 districts. So then we have smaller scale pavilions that went through the city in also in important places. They were 3 tricycles, 50 wood boxes, and 30 volunteers there. And of course we had a lot of media in the internet mainly. We had videos that talked about facts of the city, the vision, how we're building up the program, etc., etc. It was really also very visual, very graphic, and very simple, very straightforward for the people to understand it. We had a website in which we put all this. Also, you could download the document, you could download all these maps and everything. And the online survey also. We kept on doing the online survey so that we could still control the visitors' amounts and the visitor stats. What kind of people are we really addressing, and what are we missing if it's only these kind of people, or how can we approach to other people? So this was also very helpful for us. And the final event that we planned in this in this project was because of the idea of drawing the map, again, as I told you, was to draw the map in the main square of Mexico City in scale 1 to 500. That was like the biggest event that we wanted to do. That was like the sum up of all these projects. So we had a pavilion again with the map where the proposals could be made, but then we wanted to draw in this public space. It's like 250 meters. It's a square, so it's 250 by 250. It's quite a large square. It's like, I don't know, the third largest after Tiananmen and Red Square in Moscow. It's one of the largest in the world. And we said, okay, why don't we draw the map there on the floor? And then it's even more like stronger, like the fact. And we took the bikes also. We had like these performances with the bikes, with the tricycles in the square. And we drew the map. We drew the map with regular painting. And then we wanted to show also not only the urban city, the urban place, but even show the people how half of the territory is green. So, because many times when you ask a citizen of the city, they are not aware of maps, they are not aware of distances, they are not aware of the scale of things. And so if you ask people, many people in the city, where do the metro arrive, for example, they think it's like up to here. They draw the lines like completely in DF, and it's not like that. It's just half of the city that is urban. So these kind of actions really make people aware of territory. And it was really interesting because it's not that concrete. The drawing of the map is quite abstract because it's just particular elements like lines that represented roads. We didn't draw the blocks or anything. So people started to walk around and started to see like names of neighborhoods and etc. And then they started to say like, this is actually a map. So one of the dynamics that we designed for this was like tours around the map of the city in the plaza. So then we had these volunteers taking the people around so that they could see, okay, this is one area, this is the park, this is where you live, this is where you work. Okay, now you see how far, how close it is from here or there. So people started to learn more and more about this. We borrowed these plants from environmental ministry. They were just borrowed for this. It lasted only 4 days. So it was really like, because the main square is used a lot for any types of events, concerts, fairs, etc. So then it's very tight schedule. So they just lent us for 4 days. So it was really crazy. I mean, I was putting these plants myself there. Like, it was really, really something else. And it became a very interesting landscape at the end. I mean, it became this green space where it's always like concrete and stone square. It became something else. That's the pavilion, for example, where we were working with these wood boxes. So we had different activities also there. It was like our base. We even had like, as I mentioned, this performance with the tricycles going around with music. It was like a lot of things going on. We started to get a bit crazy about the event. And at the end, I think, I mean, budget-wise was not great. We wanted to do better detail of the map, for example. But I guess it was really successful in a way that we really used the tool that we wanted to use for people to participate more and more. So that was like the whole event for public participation. And now we're gonna We're going to have this year the cultural fair, the international fair that you saw that it's on the street, in the avenue. They're going to move it here to Zócalo, actually. Now it's not going to be in the avenue, it's going to be here because this year, in May, they had so many people that it was like completely overpassed with visitors. It became a bit dangerous because people went on the street where the cars go by. So then we had problems with traffic and people there. So then they say, no, let's forget about it. Let's move it to the Zócalo. And again, they called us and they said, okay, why don't you help us to make like the arrangement of the fair now? And propose, like, they just said, like, why don't you propose just like the arrangement of the pavilions? And we said, okay. And then we went back to our reference, our own reference, and said, okay, we have a potential of a different use, not only doing these pavilions. And then why don't we do again a map of the world now? And the idea is that we're going to build the pavilions all around with a stage for special concerts or anything. And then in the middle, we're going to draw the map of the world. And then we're going to, again, work with the reference of the map, the country, the pavilion, so that people are aware that, okay, where is this or that? Not only about, that's the flag of the country, but start also, again, territorial. And this is like the continuous work we do with the maps. So this project, we just presented it last Monday, and they loved it. And now we're on the way to build it up for next May. And then for the pavilion of Mexico City, which wanted to be bigger with like maybe a tunnel with the presentation and everything, we want again to be like, we don't know yet the real contents, but at least we want to make the exhibition, for example, for the competition of the market that I mentioned. So all the projects from the market can be displayed there. So it's also this way of being more and more open to the people on the actions of what we're doing inside the government. That one of the biggest issues are actually that people are not aware, or people don't know good enough, or they don't have enough information from what government actions are. And then it's just like misunderstandings many times of policies or any other things. So these are like also exercises to open, to make it more transparent, what we are trying to do with the city. So that's the main idea of what the Zócalo project will be about in May. And I can tell you more about this master plan. I haven't talked to you about this, but as I told you, government changed last year. And I've been in government for 2 years. So I was in past administration and this new administration. And while we were doing this participatory survey, the official one, government changed, so we got cancelled. The whole project got cancelled. So then all these maps that you see here are not official anymore. They never passed. And we're building again the process. We got a lot of critiques that it wasn't good enough for many people. Of course, it's a lot of political issues going on there because of the change of administration, even though it's the same party. And that's the new challenge we have now. How do we continue with the ideas? Because we think they are right. We think they have to keep on going. But how to build up more trust with the different groups of citizens, with different groups of interest in the city. So then this is like the ongoing process of what we're doing next year. Like redoing again this whole process, getting more and more engaged with different groups, opening it more and more, doing even more events for public participation, debates, congresses, etc., etc. Really, really being more and more participatory. So that's one of the biggest challenges for next year. And in parallel with the project of Granadas that I showed you, it's like on the smaller scale of a zone with the bigger scale of the city working together, and like all the time trying to put it in people's minds what the city should be about, and setting up the vision so that people really get convinced, and not only convinced just because of that, but because they will believe it is okay what we believe it's okay. So that's the participatory planning project so far.